Every morning, you wake up and become the same person. Same thoughts, same reactions, same invisible ceiling. You call it your personality. Neuroscience calls it a program. And most people spend their entire lives running it on autopilot, completely unaware that the version of themselves they wake up as every day was never actually chosen. It was rehearsed. Carl Jung talked about the shadow self. Dr. Joe Dispenza calls it the memorized self. Neville Goddard spent decades teaching that the person you assume yourself to be determines everything you experience. Vadim Zeland described it as living inside the script of a pendulum, a reality handed to you by systems, culture, and repetition. Different frameworks, same discovery. The version of you that shows up every day is not the real you. It is a constructed character, a role rehearsed so many times it started to feel like identity. And the real problem, the one nobody talks about, is that you cannot change your life from outside that program. Not with habits, not with discipline, not even with the best morning routine you've ever built. Here's what the research actually shows. By the time you're 35, roughly 95% of who you are, your behaviors, your emotional reactions, your beliefs about what's possible for you, is running on subconscious autopilot. Patterns laid down in childhood, informative experiences. In every moment you were told what you were capable of and believed it. Neuroscientists call this the default mode network, the brain's internal narrator, the story it tells you about who you are on a loop every single day. And here's the part that matters. You don't experience reality directly. You experience a filtered version of it, shaped entirely by the character you think you are. Change the character, and the entire world you perceive begins to shift. This is where Neville Goddard was decades ahead of his time. His core teaching: assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Not think about it. Not visualize it from a distance. Assume it. Inhabit it. Become the version of yourself for whom that reality is already true. Vadim Zeland mapped the same territory from a different angle. He called it moving through possibility space by aligning your internal state with the target slide. Joe Dispenza built the bridge from mysticism to brain science. And what he found was striking. The body cannot tell the difference between a real experience and one vividly imagined from an elevated emotional state. All three were pointing at the same lever. Not your actions, not your affirmations, your identity, the character you're playing at the level of assumption. But here's where almost everyone gets stuck. They try to change the story using the same old character. New habits, old self. New goals, old assumptions. New information poured into an identity that automatically filters it out. The shift doesn't happen at the surface. It never did. It happens at the level of who you believe yourself to be before you do a single thing. So what does actually rewriting the script look like? It starts with catching the program mid-run, noticing the exact moment you default to the familiar reaction, the familiar story, the familiar ceiling, and pausing, not to fight it, to observe it, to recognize this is a character I'm playing, not who I am, and then, deliberately, stepping into a different one. This is not toxic positivity. It is not pretending things are fine when they aren't. It is a specific kind of inner work, grounded in how identity actually forms and reforms inside the nervous system. The old script doesn't disappear overnight, but every time you catch it and choose differently, you are editing. Sentence by sentence, scene by scene, you are rewriting. The script you have been living was never the final draft. It was a first attempt, written by circumstances, by other people's voices, by a version of you that was doing the best it could with what it had. Programs can be rewritten. Identities do shift. Not because you want them to badly enough, but because you do the actual work of becoming someone new, from the inside out, at the level of assumption, at the level of identity itself. The author was always you. This channel is called Mind the Script. Every week we go deep into the neuroscience of identity, the teachings of Neville Goddard, Vadim Zeland, and Dr. Joe Dispenza, and the real work of rewriting the character you wake up as every day. If that's the work you're here to do, subscribe, and let's rewrite it together.